book because having been born into a family that really expected me to be a bimbo, I wasn't raised to be wise or to know I had power. I was raised to grow up and become MRS, Mrs., and that was pretty much it. And in doing so, I chose someone who was so dangerous spiritually and emotionally for me. And he knew I had an inheritance, and that's what he wanted. And so he wined and dined me. When I talk to women about trust your intuition, test the men you're with, it's because, especially the narcissists, they can come on so strong. And I talk about the love tsunami. You're just overwhelmed with what appears to be love. And it is so not love. But I bought it, hook, line, and sinker. 4 months after meeting him, I walked down the aisle and said my vows with all sincerity. And every word he said was fraud. Every word was a lie. And I handed him my heart and my life. And everything that had been so apparent that he loved me before the wedding, the next day was gone. I never, ever saw that man again. And so I had 13 years of what was really hell, trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. Why had he loved me so much before? What had changed in me that he no longer loved me? And it never dawned on me for years that no, it had nothing to do with me. It was about him. And when I finally grabbed the courage inside of me that I had always had, just had never known, and moved on from that relationship, I slowly was introduced to the fact that I was penniless. There was no money. Everything had been spent. And I had 3 sons. And when I told my boys that we're not going to have any more drama or trauma again, we're going to have a brand new life, and it's going to be wonderful. And I said, we're going to start with me signing up to finish at the time my bachelor's degree in psychology that I had quit 13 years before. And so I packed a picnic lunch for my sons. We live near a lake. And I told my oldest son, David, take your little brothers to the lake. I'm driving down to sign up for my bachelor's degree. And when I come back tonight, I'm bringing cake and hamburgers, and we're inviting friends over. We are going to celebrate this new turn in our lives. And so I did. The only problem was that my son, David, who had been a world-class athlete at 13, somewhere in the afternoon, got up at the beach with 100 people he'd known all of his life, and a lifeguard and clubhouse, and everybody just having a wonderful summer day. And he took a surface dive into the lake and couldn't see the sandbar that was right below the surface. And he hit it and broke his neck and became a C5 quadriplegic. And while I was driving home and stopping at the market to get the barbecue and the cake, he was being helicoptered over me back to Sacramento in a life flight situation. And then when I got home, I wondered where all the boys were. There must have been a lot of cute girls at the beach, because otherwise David, being very responsible, would have been home. And then the phone was ringing off the hook. And friends came and drove me back down to Sacramento, to the trauma center. And, I couldn't even imagine the catastrophic injury he had. I kept thinking, did he break his arm? What happened? Because David never got hurt. He was this consummate athlete, never got hurt. And then that's when I got to the emergency, and they were using the word paralyzed with my son. And as a mother, you just can't even begin to absorb that. But anyway, we had 3 weeks in ICU. He flatlined twice. I watched him will himself back to life, even though we'd had the talk that he wasn't going to kick another ball, he wasn't going to walk out of the hospital, that this was a complete injury. He knew that, and yet he still had that core strength that mothers give their sons, that he knew he was loved. He'd never had a second in his life wondering if I loved him. And he knew he was going to be supported. He knew he wasn't going to be alone. His friends were coming to visit him, and he wanted to stay on the planet. So he did. And I can't say it was easy. It was very, very difficult for him especially to suddenly have to learn how to live life without moving when he had moved like poetry in any sport he played. Then we went to Shriners Hospital in San Francisco for 4 months, and they had to teach me what to do to take care of a quadriplegic son. There were things no son wants their mother doing to them. That just became a part of our life. And David has such a grace about him. Just is amazing young man. And then we came back after those 4 months, and he went back to school and wanted to complete his senior year with his class, which he did 11 months to the day of the accident. And a few months later, we were both back in college. And then he went on to Cal State Northridge and graduated with 3 National Honor Societies and had blessed so many people with his optimism, his sense of humor. He's amazing. So he then went on and got his teaching credential because he wanted his life example to really change the lives of teenagers. He said, I want to teach high school, Mom. So that's what he's been doing for 19 years. And I've gone on, and because of his independence, I went on and earned my graduate degree in counseling psychology because I knew my life example of what I had endured making bimbo choices had led me to climb out of this victimized life and really grab hold of the power and the wisdom that I have no doubt every woman has within her. We're just not given permission, or we're afraid to find out about it. But my life is lived now to bring that forward in women, to let them know you are number one. And if you're not, other people will assume they are in your life. So it's been a wild ride. I spent 13 years researching for my book in the soul science and psychology of relationships. I'm especially focused on the relationship between for a man, how his mother loves him so greatly impacts how he loves a woman now. And for women to know how to see the traits of a broken man versus a potential prince. So that's all in my book. It's in my counseling. It's in my speaking. Very much aware of how the process happens to raise a narcissist. That is in the mother's hands. To raise either a happy, healthy, whole son who knows and is comfortable and embraces emotional intimacy, or by not really bonding, sets the brain of her little boy up for running like hell from emotional intimacy. And so when I'm counseling women, it's a big part of what I teach them, to be aware of how narcissism happens, how love happens. And I do say, I'm taking you from preschool to PhD in things that I'm not aware anyone else is talking about. And it's the key. It suddenly every question is answered. All the nonsense now makes sense. And women with that knowledge just feel empowered because they now know what they need to know to find the love they're holding on for. So that's why I wrote the book and do what I do. My passion is for the sisters, that we change the paradigm for women. Because if we start setting the bar high on who we will let into our life, then all these men who want a woman and they can't find one who will put up with their nonsense, they're going to have to raise their bar if they want us to become a part of them. So it's a big picture, but it begins with each woman one-on-one. Just that change in the heart and the mind of who you are. You're a woman. There's no more powerful being on the planet than being a woman. We give life, we sustain life, we work for peace. To me, there's no higher honor than being born a woman. So I just want to support that in women who haven't understood that yet, like I was one of those women for so long.